Hello and welcome to Big Box PC Gamers Hangout number 7. Today's topics of discussion will be how to look after your maps and posters, and emulation versus hardware. Our show and tell topics will be the most awesome big box game cover, which should be a good one, and the second one, as usual, will be a free choice, whatever you want to show. So let's jump right into our first show and tell, the most awesome big box cover. This is actually a tough one. Me and my wife had quite the adventure last night trying to come up with what was the most awesome big box cover, because it's pretty broad. Description. There's multiple categories, so I came up with 3. I thought that for just interactivity and design, that this was one of the most awesome big box covers, and it's too bad Pascal's not in here because he loves this one. But it's got a nice, first of all, the colors are really cool, but it's also got the great opening, and the worm, the worm kind of bunches like that whenever you open it. So this one is really cool, I think. And of course, it's got the back with the scenes from the movie and everything on it. And then, just for artistic sake, the game is terrible, but I feel like this one is really cool. Final Fantasy XIV Collector's Edition, which is painted. I cannot remember the guy's name, but he's a very famous anime artist in Japan. But he does all the Final Fantasy artwork, and of course, it's got this nice slipcover you can take off and just see the picture on it in the back like that. And it opens like a book, kind of, and it's got the stuff. I've got the sheet that connects the back in there. That's what that is. But anyway, the stuff like that. So I thought that was a good one. And then, just for sheer metal factor, I went with the Daggerfall holographic version, which just is the most heavy metal box in my collection, I think.
It's insanely shiny.
Yeah, this is a really kick-butt box. I mean, if you saw this on the shelf, who wouldn't buy that, you know? I'm surprised that it didn't sell 10 million copies. But, yeah. Anyway, those are my 3 most awesome boxes. And I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Let's introduce ourselves whenever we show. My name is Joel McCoy. I'm the founder of the Facebook group that we're all members of, and I've been collecting PC games for quite a while. So, who wants to go next?
I'll go. Right, I'm KG. I write about computers and games and things, but and have an unhealthy interest in many of them. Now, my angle on the most awesome box cover is more art-based than anything else. So I've got two examples. I'm a big fan of fantasy art in general, and I really like Larry Elmore's work. And one of the first places I encountered him as an artist, actually, is the box art for Bad Blood by Origin. Lightweight. It's a lightweight RPG. It sort of somewhat resembles the Ultimate games, except it's a slightly different angle. And it's set in a post-apocalyptic universe. It's actually, although I think it's actually quite underrated as far as games go, because you have got this whole business with mutant powers and strange and unusual mutants. You can see beautifully illustrated there, and Elmore's art really sort of gave me the urge to buy this thing straight away. The other one is another Origin title, and I'm not sure why I'm showing Origin titles, given that I have Joe Garrity over there. But this one I like for slightly different reasons. This is the Ultima 6 cover, False Prophet, my original, slightly tatty, mostly dust, I swear, box. This has been played so many times. But what I like about this is, as you can see, you've got okay, there are going to be spoilers for Ultima 6 at this point. If you haven't played it, turn away now. Also, why haven't you played it? In this, you can see the avatar in a sort of glow of smug paladin-like glory, crushing a poor gargoyle. Now, as you go through the game, you realise that this cover is in many ways completely not representative of what happens in the game, but is completely representative of what the gargoyles believe the avatar is to be like. They believe that the avatar is going to come and destroy their race. They think that's his raison d'etre. And from this point of view, I sort of always thought that the poster looked like a Gargish propaganda poster. The avatar is supposed to be the bad guy in this. It's quite obvious. I mean, complex subtext that emerge later in the Ultima series notwithstanding, but it makes it really obvious that it's the gargoyle you're supposed to sympathise with here. I mean, look at the relative positioning. The avatar's almost faceless, but you can see the pained features of the gargoyle. And I think the fact that you can that at least in my head, I really should probably ask Dennis Loubet about this at some time rather than just making theories up as I go along. But you know, why spoil a good theory? The way in my head it weaves into the narrative of the game rather than just being an incredibly obvious depiction of the game's events makes it as well as being artistically brilliant, it makes it one of the more interesting game covers, particularly of its era. Now, I did ask Joe to get some sort of supporting props for on the Bad Blood front because this afternoon. So, if you wouldn't mind, Joe.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Some of the things that were fantastic about Bad Blood is obviously the artwork from the cover of the box. And Origin was nice enough to do a limited edition of the Larry Elmore print. And I have it framed here. This was a gift from Electronic Arts. And the frame is cracked and beaten, and the glass is broken down the bottom. And the picture is faded because it looks to me as though it was posted in front of a window. But the artwork is just absolutely stupendous on this. I believe that Larry Elmore still actually owns the original print, the original painting itself. So this was one of the this is one of the treasures I always wanted the original of and never was able to get a hold of it.
I've just posted a link to Larry Elmore's website where he showcases the full version of the Bad Blood artwork without the borders of the box or anything.
Should I keep the other one for your later talk?
I don't know. I think that's yeah. We might as well lump that in with posters. I think so. Thanks very much, Joe. Next.
So, hi, I'm Paul. I basically came here for the first time to this Google Hangouts. So let me introduce myself. As I said, I'm Paul, and I collect games mostly from MS-DOS era and from early 20s. I basically do game development for my living, so I'm basically pretty close to all the game sphere. So I chose three games, 3 boxes for today, and first one, I guess I don't need to introduce it. It's Commander Keen, Goodbye
Sweet.
Galaxy. So yeah, this was developed by John Romero, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So this one, second one is very similar in art style and design. So it's pretty much the same. It's called Morphrosh. It's kind of a small game. I had a demo when I was a kid, and basically I bought this like full version just a few weeks ago. But since I don't have any CD-ROM right now, I can't test out the full version. But it's
the
pretty.
cover art looks like it should be Froggerish. What's the game like?
I can maybe show you here. Basically, you are a frog and you are trying to cross the road, and the river is based on a kind of a very old games which were even text-based, but this is just a graphical remake, some kind of. And third game is a game from 1991, and it's Alien vs. Predator Gold Edition, which has kind of a pretty neat, like, glossy skull in front of the
That
box.
is awesome.
Yeah, so
That is cool. I've never seen that.
yeah. So these are my 3 picks for today show off.
Your awesome boxes are awesome.
Is that second one like Frogger?
Looks like.
Cheers.
Yes, okay.
Frogger? I'm not sure. It's just called More Frosh. I guess it's from the developers of Morhon games, you know, where you shoot the ducks or chickens or whatever it is.
What does that mean, More Frosh?
So it's kind of just a tiny, small kids game.
No, but what does the words mean, More Frosh? Does it mean something?
I have no idea. I guess the frosh means like a frog,
That's what I figured.
but I'm not sure.
Okay, interesting.
No idea.
Right, who has some more awesome games to show us?
I guess I showed everything I wanted to show for today, or for this topic. So, somebody else?
Well, welcome, Paul.
Yeah,
Hi,
very
thanks.
welcome.
Stuart, are you up?
Okay, so, I mean, I have a lot of awesome games, so it's hard to pick which is the most awesome box, but
Do you have video?
after some careful
We
consideration...
can't see you, Stuart.
Oh, you can't see me?
No, is your camera lens shut?
Can you see me now?
No.
No?
Can you see me now?
Okay, this is the hangout of technical failures. Based on this, we're still missing a Pascal. I'm going to vamp frantically while you guys try and work Stuart's camera out.
So you
Please
still,
communication.
you still can't see me?
No!
I can see myself. All right,
You're gonna have to cut.
I'm going to leave and rejoin and see if that helps, and maybe I'll end up in Pascal's video. But we'll try and see what happens.
Well, it's just because we did this through YouTube this time. Maybe that's just not a good idea.
Well, the joy of technical failure continues to go with us. I do have some more awesome boxes on standby, unless anyone else immediately has anything to hand.
Can you see me
Okay.
now?
No.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
see
There
you.
you are.
Oh, okay. All right, good. So I don't know what happened there. That was weird. So I picked this one because it's not totally cardboard. You can actually take the mask out and put it on your own face if you want to do that. Unfortunately,
Whoa.
it's not in perfect condition. It got a little beat up, I think, in the last move, but it's pretty big and it's mask is the feature, so that's why I picked it as most awesome. This is, of course, Infocom Suspended, which is, I guess, one of the earlier interactive fiction games they put out when they're still making these big blue boxes. And it's a story of you are sort of this guy in cryogenic suspended animation, and you're supposed to be controlling this, basically the Earth defenses if there's some problem, and they wake you up, but you can't move. You're just like sort of suspended in stasis, and you can only control these 6 robots to go around and take care of business for you. That's the premise. And if you don't do a good job, they assume you're just incompetent, and they come and kill you basically and replace you with someone else. So it's your advantage to do a good job. So that's the game. It's a pretty cool box.
That sounds like a harsh death condition. Suspended's one of the Infocom games I haven't played. How easy is it to sort of get killed by mutinous robots?
I think the game is very hard because you can't walk around and just sort of do stuff. You have to like keep track of can operate mechanical devices that the rest of them can't. One of them can see, one of them can like sense things. There's one that's a robot that can do everything that's broken and there's no way to fix them, just like to screw you over. It's pretty hard, but if you know what you're doing, then it's like one of those games. Once you know what you're doing, you can redo it easily. To figure it out, it's very difficult.
All right. Well, this looks like a good spot to switch to our first topic of discussion, which is emulation versus hardware. This is an interesting topic. I'm curious to hear some of your points of view on this. I tend to side on the side of emulation myself only because of a lack of hardware and a lack of space. I only have one PC going at the moment, and DOSBox is pretty much my only. And when we're talking about big box old games, we're pretty much talking about DOSBox is our emulator of choice, unless there's another one that I'm not aware of. Pretty much I'm a DOSBox guy if I want to play any of this stuff. So if it doesn't run in DOSBox, I guess I'm pretty much out of luck. I would love to have a museum of old computers here, but I just don't have anywhere to put it or any way to make that happen. So what are y'all's thoughts on emulation versus hardware?
So I'm sort of like on the fence, and that not on the fence, but I'll take a middle position. I want to use the original media of the games and play those whenever I can, but I don't believe that we need to use the original hardware for the whole machine. So my basic objective is to make an Uber machine that can run everything, as opposed to having like every single individual machine from yesteryear lined up in a row. And for the reasons that you gave, I mean, it's lack of space, but more than lack of space. I'd rather use my space to have more games than to have more hardware. So have the games, but have devices that are capable of playing the original media on my newest machine, essentially. That's my goal.
There's something about what we're doing that is harder than what the console folks are doing, and I know that the console folks like their emulation too, but they get bonuses from it like save states and stuff. But anyway, I collect the console stuff as well, and I'll prefer to play those on the original hardware, but they're so much more compact, and I can pretty much hook them all up to the one television, right? Even the modern TVs, they still work. We have a harder time, I think, because we have the monitor issue, especially old school CRT monitors are big and bulky. The PCs typically weren't designed for looks unless you're dealing with Apple hardware. Most of the time they're really kind of ugly to have around. They get yellow and nasty looking. I mean, it's tough. It would be, I would pretty much have to have a room by itself set up for this sort of stuff if I was to really get into the hardware side.
But there's something to be said for the original hardware. I mean, it's incredibly cool to me, anyway, to have that original hardware to go run it in its original format. What cracks me up the most is that while DOSBox emulates all this stuff incredibly well, I'm absolutely shocked at how well it handles some of the more complicated games from the mid-90s and things. There's something magical about simply playing those games. Look at this. Look at this. Is that Wilhelm? No. That's Paul. Paul's got it rigged. Look, I can even see a floppy in the drive right now. Amazing.
And it's an Acer.
He's booting from a 3.5, I think. Look at this. But there's something to be said for that, because I know for something like Wing Commander 3, now you play it in DOSBox and it plays extremely well and it plays great, but you miss out on the cutting edge technology at the time. I remember to load that screen to get into the spaceflight mode took, oh my gosh, Wilhelm. Holy macaroni, look at this.
I'm the hardware guy, sir.
I'm just gonna stop talking because I want to hear Wilhelm's and Paul's.
Wow.
Yes, let me start to do my introduction. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Joe, Joseph, KG, Stuart, all you guys. Yesterday I was seeing your videos and all the stuff, really interesting. For me, it's a great to meet with guys from a different part of the world that sharing the same hobby that I have. It's not too common to find people that like the same thing as me. My name is Wilhelm. I'm originally from Peru, for South America, but I live in South Florida. So I used to say this is the home birth of the eternal original IBM PC. I'm a PC guy, as my shirt says. I'm basically collect everything about PCs, hardware, of course, software, application, and a lot of games too, because it's something that I find one of the most interesting things that I can do with my computers. But talking about this topic, I agree. Yes, there's nothing like the original sensation of run the application, the game in the original platform. I mean, there's nothing that can replace the sensation when you put the original floppy disk drive in there and you heard the floppy read it, right, and run the software in the original speed, the original, even the CRTs also. I mean, you have all these LCD stuff that look fancy, but you cannot compare with the original sensation to see these games in these little 14-inch CRT monitors when it originally used to be designed. So I'm a habit collector of this. I basically have one computer from any era. I mean, the 5050 original IBM, 5060, 5070, 80, some clones also. Definitely, I like my computer games collection, but I also like once in a while open my boxes and install this in the original computer and enjoying the sensation to running in the original systems, right?
Well, your wall back there is basically a visual representation of part of the problem we have is my collection spans a breadth of decades, and we got everything from the gold box series that you could run on the 8 megahertz Tandy 1000 computer, which I do still have that. It's just not hooked up. It's over at my dad's house. All the way up to the Wing Commander 3 era, which is technically still an old big box PC game that took a really beefy PC to run. Computer hardware was advancing at such a rapid state that in order to run all these games that I love so much, you'd have to have several different computers in order to run them at the optimal speeds.
Well, I also want to hear what Paul has to say, what his thoughts are on it. For him to just pick up an old machine and show it to the group means that he is incredibly into this as well.
Yeah, well, emulation versus the real hardware. I think when you have like this piece of hardware and you have this like screen for a turbo button. So when you press the turbo button, basically it will change the speed of your processor. And when I bought this machine and I opened up the case, I found out that the turbo isn't working at all. So basically, it isn't even connected to the motherboard. And what it does, it only basically changes the number on the screen. And so I think when you play on hardware, it has some kind of how should I say it? Like it has some kind of a soul, I guess. So even if you turn on your old computer with this huge button and your floppies make sounds like right at the startup, I think that kind of brings you to the old era. So when you emulate your games, basically you don't feel like sucked into the old DOS era. And what is, however, pretty nice about emulating is you can download your old games and play them within a few minutes. And what I find pretty interesting is I couldn't manage to run several games on DOS, which were meant to be played on DOS, but I could only manage to start them on a DOS box. So that's pretty like interesting, I guess. I have also this small notebook here. I can show off. It's not in a best condition. Like, it doesn't even have a battery. There's a second. Okay, I probably won't be able to open it up. But yeah, I think emulation has its own strength, but if you want to play your game and you want to really enjoy it, then you probably have to take the old hardware and play it on your old machine. So yeah.
The biggest advantage you guys have is you have a 5 1/4 drive. I still don't have one. I got tons of discs. I don't even know if they work. I've got a 3.5 inch drive here that's a USB drive that works, but 5 1/4 still eludes me. I wish someone would make a USB 5 1/4 inch drive. It will never happen, but I wish someone would.
There's a board you can get that allows you to kind of hook up. I haven't got one.
I saw that.
Actually
It's like
had.
$100.
Yeah, it is, and the hardware isn't hugely well supported across various platforms. And apparently, there's one good piece of copying software.
You're right, Joel. At $100, that's mainly for nothing but the hardcore PC game collector. So it wouldn't apply.
Well, it's just.
Yeah, they sell it more.
I think it's primarily designed with disk imaging in mind.
Like businesses that have old information on 5 1/4s, that's like their market. You know, like people that just have to get this data off by any means.
I think we may have missed a joke. Sorry, Joe.
No worries.
We're humorless.
Well, so you don't own any 5 1/4 unit in home, and I know you have a very interesting collection back in there. So how you know if your games are still functional or it doesn't matter for you?
I don't know if they do or not. The way I play them is most of the time with the GOG versions, which you can just install. And if it's for archival purposes, I'll just burn it on a CD and stick it in the box.
I've got to say, the GOG versions, although they're great, and I do think emulation very much has its place. I'm mostly gaming off this all-in-one PC in my room at the moment, although I've got other computers, both old and new. But the GOG versions, for example, one thing I haven't compromised on when it comes to emulation is I have a real Roland sound canvas.
Wow.
Hooked up to a modern PC via this USB MIDI in-out dongle. Yours for €11 off from some random eBay dealer in Hong Kong. It's great. But the thing with the GOG versions of games, sorry, that was the top of my head talking, is that often they're missing the crucial installer files that allow you to change settings such as sound card and so on. GOG has decided what the optimal settings are for the version that they've forced into running as well as possible on a modern PC, and that doesn't allow very well for much divergent and retro hardware. For that reason, I've been trying to archive off images of my discs, which unfortunately, because some of them weren't stored all that well, I've had mixed results with. But I too have a USB floppy drive, and I've been using WinImage to pull images off. Although some, like some Sierra discs, have physical copy protection that actually prevents you from ripping viable images from them, which is a little bit annoying. And I think that's one of the points where you get to the advantages of real hardware. I do most of my retro gaming via emulation because I'm lazy, but real hardware not only is sometimes more likely to work because, for example, even the latest development version of DOSBox has issues with loading multiple disk images in series. At times, not all CDs and not all disk images will work with DOSBox. If you're, and it's fine if you've downloaded something from some abandonware site because that's already sort of more primed and runnable. Although it may have its own problems, but yeah, that whole disk image DOSBox problem is a good argument in favour of real hardware. And the other thing is, I'm a hardware nerd. I mean, for a long time, I was predominantly a computer hardware reviewer. I can build a PC in a shockingly small amount of time, and I actively enjoy the process of restoring old PCs, old consoles. a large part of my interest in this hobby, although I love the games, is in the process of restoring these things and bringing them back to working order, making the game boxes beautiful, making archiving off the discs before it's too late, getting that old console running, rebuilding that old PC.
There's no doubt that in my mind that the original hardware is very cool. And I think we all acknowledge that. I think the nice thing about the hybrid approach I try to use, I do have the original disk drive, so I do get to hear that whirring and and all that stuff, so get some of that experience. But I guess there's two things in my mind. One is that aside from that, like, it's very cool to have the original hardware, but I don't think
Stuart's just gone dead from my point of view.
I'm dead?
We were losing you a second. You were saying your experience wasn't that different in emulation?
No, I think that, yeah, if it's a good emulation and you have, using the original cartridge / disc / whatever, the experience is not appreciably different in my mind, at least, although the original hardware is extremely cool. But
I disagree. It's particularly with monitors.
But the other thing I want to say quickly is that philosophically, I almost feel like I have to take this position because I want these games to be loved by lots of different people, and I don't want to take a position that means that 99.99% of the people in the world are never going to appreciate these games the way they're intended to be appreciated, quote unquote. Yes, there is like a 1% difference that you'll get by having the original hardware, but by far you have what you need by having the software and maybe a couple of gadgets. I don't know.
I think monitors are kind of the sort of big elephant in the room that we don't talk about that much. Because the reason stuff like, for example, the remaster of Grim Fandango, its control system for being one reason, but the resolution issues being another. Playing old games on a modern screen, I know I feel this more than most people because I use a 2K screen more for me. But getting the pixels smeared across your screen, or having to play in a tiny box. I mean, even a crappy little 640 by 1080 LCD monitor, a 4 to 5 one, 4 to 3, would do the trick. But the problem is increasingly we're using TVs and large monitors, and I think that actually robs more of the experience from emulated games than anything else. If you want the proper emulated games experience, you do need a piece of shit monitor sitting around somewhere, in my opinion, which I kind of regret not having.
On that. Having a 4x3, I use a widescreen monitor now, of course, like everyone does, and having a 4x3, those black bars on the side, I can't even explain why that irritates me. It just does. It's just like something about it not being on the screen is just like crappy, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
I think you have a good point, KG, with the monitor in terms of the resolutions. You're right, there is a difference between the original monitor and stretching it in some way across a new monitor. I agree. I'll give you that point.
I am totally in favour of emulation, though. As I've said, I use it a lot, and I think it's brilliant that we have it. The people who created DOSBox and ScumVM and so on are saints in my book.
Yeah, one thing which also comes to my mind is that sometimes the emulation ends up being better than the original hardware because it can emulate stuff that you didn't have on the original hardware. Like the Roland is a good example. You have a Roland, but 99% of people never had a Roland and never will have a Roland. And on that emulation, you can get that stuff. I mean, like Space Quest 3 in the beginning, aside from the Roland stuff, there's some Sound Blaster speak where he talks for a little bit, Roger Wilco. I remember back in the day, I had a right setup and I was able to hear it. And like a couple of years later, I tried to play it. I didn't hear it. I forgot it existed.
But part of that is actually amusing as well, because with the emulation, Stuart's right. They are able to emulate the various different types. However, the problem that you come up with is you get to pick up the problems from 25 years ago. I just literally this morning downloaded Ultima Underworld 1 from GOG.com because of the Underworld Ascendant Kickstarter. I downloaded it and just booted it up and went, oh, I'll jump back into Underworld 1. And the sound emulation is probably set currently to Roland, but my card just goes nuts when it plays it, and the music sounds horrible. And I was fiddling with trying to turn it back to Sound Blaster compatibility when I had to go do some things. So I never really got to finish that, but I was all ready to start digging into DOSBox's stuff and changing the Sound Blaster settings, which I love doing, so that I could hear it in a usable format where it wouldn't get irritating. And these were the same things that were irritating people in 1993.
Well, another.
I spent a solid day messing with sound card emulation in DOSBox. I was playing Ultima 7, and Ultima 7's like sweet spot is definitely an MT32 because that's what it was written for. And
well, Munt does you a lot of favors there because you've got DOSBox support for Munt now.
Yeah. So, but you know, I'll preface that with MT32 emulation isn't entirely legal. But the flip side of that is buying those things like you've got, KG, on eBay is not cheap still anymore. They're still pretty expensive. At least the ones I saw were.
Well, here's another example of what I was saying. So all the original Sierra games, after the first King's Quest or whatever, were in an AGI, Adventure Game Interpreter, and they all had basically support only for the PC speaker in terms of sound. There was no Sound Blaster support. Originally, at least, until SCI came out. But for the Tandy 1000, it had a 3-channel sound as opposed to like the it was 2-channel maybe, or it was just 1 channel even. And actually, all those games were written with a more advanced soundtrack. If you had the Tandy 1000, you had the Tandy sound hardware, it would play that more advanced soundtrack, even though the Tandy 1000 was a PC compatible machine in other respects. I never had any idea that was the case. Until years and years later, I got some either AGI interpreter or DOSBox or what, and I started playing some of these old games again. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This sounds so much better than it used to sound for me on my original hardware. So that's
true because it's based in the IBM PC original hardware. The final time.
Possibly could have. It's much simpler.
Ooh, technical failure is very much the theme today, isn't it?
Let me add something about this experience. It's not, as I said, not only about running in the original hardware configuration. It's also the way to connect the games with their specific era. For example, if I turn on my Windows 8, Windows 7 computer and run my emulator and want to run in Queen Quest, for example, right? And I have a friend of mine that says, "What is this? Let me show you." So I run in my emulation and stuff. Says, "What is this thing? I mean, these little characters with very low resolution and whole stuff." I says, "Let me tell you a little bit more about this thing. It's not only the original media and stuff. Let me show you the original hardware. Let me show you the original experience, so we can connect the game with the original hardware, the original experience. So it's original technology that's running in that time. So he can have a perception about the whole thing, not only the game with the computer, and also the technology that was running in that time. That's what really passionate me, right? Besides the game, is to be able to offer the whole experience, the game stuff, the vintage stuff with the vintage hardware and the whole thing. This is why you living in 1984, for example. This is what you have in your hands. This is the original computer. This is the original DOS. This is the original game, and that's the original sensation. So I think nothing can replace that.
There's some truth to that because the meta game when I was a child was getting the games to run. Now, the biggest offender for me was Falcon 3.0, which is, if I recall, we'll talk about 7 in a minute because it was another thing because you couldn't use expanded memory managers with that game. So getting the Ultima 7 to run with mouse, sound, you know, the youngsters of today's age will never know what it takes to rearrange items in a config.sys file in order to get things optimally loaded into expanded memory. Because getting things run sound card drivers took up a lot of memory, and you had what 640K to deal with back then.
These damn kids with their IRQs
and you don't have to deal with any of that stuff. You got your sound blasters wanting to use the same interrupt channel as your printer port does, you know. So I was constantly.
We had jumpers, and we liked it that way.
Interrupt 7 was
I
the-
once got a Roland and a Sound Blaster to run on the same machine, producing different parts of sound in an old Origin game. It took me months.
I always use interrupt 5 for my sound cards because the stupid printer port wanted to use interrupt 7. So these freaking games that would not allow you to change the interrupt port from 7 down to 5 would irritate the crap out of me back then. And there was very few of them, but they were out there.
And then we'd all configure our machines and get IRQ7 to work with our sound cards. And then the industry basically changed everything to 5. So we, the forerunners, we had to go change everything in order to meet their stupid technical specs. These damn kids with their hair in their clothes.
Yeah. These rotten young kids, and they're not having to deal with this stuff. I mean, when was the last time
Who
anyone
remembers
had
Edlin?
with an interrupt channel or a direct memory access? You know, no one even knows what those are anymore, man. We're like a dying breed in this group.
One IRQ7. Yeah. Black and play used to be a good thing, huh?
Yeah, interrupt 7, PMA channel 1 was what Sound Blaster wanted to use.
And then they changed it to 505 or 515. That's what it was. Sorry.
And here, gentlemen, is an example of a boot disc from the wild.
Mm. Yeah, and you pretty much had to have. Well, I was able to get Ultima 7 to run. Ultima 7 was the worst because they used their own freaking memory manager.
I swear, Martian Dreams was worse than Ultima 7.
It wasn't until I guess Doom was kind of the game that just murdered what we're talking about because DOS 4GW just gave games the ability to not have to run in that base 4640K. It would be awesome if John was here because he could explain, you know, because that's the first game I remember that using that. I think it was the first. This is probably a good spot to move on to our next show and tell, which is a free choice. So, would anyone like to go first and show us something?
Oh.
That's original.
Wilhelm says something.
The original Sound Blaster 8 bits. That's it is model that 1350. That's a very early model, 8 bits. So it's for XT or original.
Card.
Yeah, so it's before the Sound Blaster 16, which is the standard, what became the standard in audio. This was the original model that Blaster.
I have a Game Blaster, not in here, unfortunately, but I can show you at some point in the future if you don't have one. Lovely card.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we found our retro hardware expert.
I'm impressed, man. That
is such a good
whatever that room that you're in is like the most amazing place on the planet.
Also, I like the blue lighting. It has this Mad Scientist Slayer vibe going on.
I keep clicking you on the live feed so people can see what's going on. I mean, it's like magical back there. There's like an otherworldly glow behind your head with these magical PCs.
Yeah.
PCs are magical, Joel.
This closet, for example, is generic clones computers, no IBMs. The one is behind me, and this one is only IBMs stuff. So I have let me show these things. These are 5050, which is original IBM PC, the very first, and I have 56.
Hardware.
Stuff.
Just beautiful setup, Willem.
Thank you, sir. And this is the one that I use the most. Look at this. I call the mule. Let me put the thing there. So usually when I purchase a game, I don't incorporate to my collection until I'm not sure that it's really functional. So I use that stuff. You see, that's a 5150. That's original PC, but have an emulation card to 286. So I basically can run anything from 1981 there to 1988. I mean, original.
Right.
To 26, and the computer that's on the right side is a 486, so that can run software from probably 89 to 94. So that's probably the place when I do most of the tests when I purchase a new games. And this one has a little bit more modern hardware. That's XT, 85, 98 computers. So basically, if I have a game, I should have the computer ready to do the test. And this is a little bit about my games collections too. There's some games that I
Holy crap!
Yeah, just a little bit of your
Nice.
I did everything. And then this is
Yeah, just a few. It's just like a wall of games. It's, you know.
yes, and
It's
All
several walls of games.
like
Walls of
those
games.
Barnes
Let's be
Noble.
it's
accurate
a
here.
whole.
I could die in that room.
I would die. I would be like.
Oh my God, we've
Nick-
just got Joe being all excited at someone else's room-sized collection. How cool is this? Mr. Origin
Used to be my garage.
over.
No anymore.
It's funny looking at your computers because it's like you can see when the iPad came out because all of a sudden like PC cases were like white and metal, and then when the iPad, I mean the iMac, and then all of a sudden the iMac comes out and everything's like plastic and like funky colors and all these like weird shapes and craziness going on. It's like it's funny.
I went. The critical thing is at some point in the late 2000s, in the mid 2000s, they stopped making PC cases that actively tried to remove your fingers. The magazine I worked with, you weren't regarded as a proper PC hardware reviewer until you had your hands sliced open during a case review. I'm not even joking. We used to call it bleeding for shopper.
All right, let's move on to the old show and tell, which is a free choice. And I'm going to grab what I've got, but it looks like KG's ready to go down there.
I'm ready.
Shall I go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go first.
Okay, I'm going to talk about a couple of multiple artwork editions. As you may know, I have an obsession with Lovecraftian games. It kind of ties into my writing and so on. And so what we have here is Shadow of the Comet. This is the original release, complete with compatible with the sound source. That was the Disney sound source, which was originally branded as, was it Kovox? I may be getting it confused with something else.
Correct. No,
But good. My memory is holding despite the whiskey. So you've got a bunch of feelies. Get out of the box. Sorry. This is a floppy disk release, and it comes with. Let me see if I can make this work for you guys. Yes, copy protection. Admire the astral plane.
Yeah, the original DRM right there.
the most amazing copy protection I've ever seen in a game. That's so cool.
Yeah, but you're kind of screwed if you lose this thing. You can't exactly go back online to re-download. So this is the floppy disk release of Shadow of the Comet, and I really get a kick out of this artwork and the embossing and the evil eyes and the insane worshippers of elder things that man shall not know what of. And then you've got the CD release, which my copies, someone, not me, tried to get the free mouse mat logo off. And might I add, I got this second hand. The free mouse mat was not inside, but it's the same scene, but it's been but it's kind of like a redrawn version. It's obviously depicting generally the same thing, down to stance and so on. You have got this stand-in H.P. Lovecraft / Jeffrey Coombs-esque character here, fleeing while holding a dread tome. Yeah, the complete change in artwork I think is quite interesting here. I do like versions with different artwork, and it's got the same stuff except on disc. And I think they did away with the copy protection for this version. And like I said, there was supposed to be a mouse mat. I don't have the mouse mat. If anyone has a spare Shadow of the Comet mouse mat, please send it to the usual address. So yeah, those are my wildly divergent covers for the same thing, show and tell. And Joe is wielding things, and Joel has.
Can I interrupt you for a little while? John Romero just confirmed that he will come in like 10 minutes to join us.
Say that again?
John Romero, you know, the guy who made Doom, will just come within 10 minutes.
This is the sound of all of us attempting to be incredibly cool about this news and not embarrass ourselves on live feed.
Sorry, I'm gonna squee. I can't help it. I will do that.
Who's coming? What's this guy's name?
John Romero.
Romero. John.
All right.
They were
Can we-
toasting this guy we got, so, you know.
Okay, rampaging fanboys, can we get on with the show and tell?
Yeah. All right, I'm next. I don't know why I don't have the original sitting in front of me. I can't seem to find it. But my favorite for box art cover stuff was obviously BioForge. This is something that was totally different than everything else. This was a first-person adventure game that had full motion, that had full speech and motion capture. One of the first games to have motion capture in it for PC. True motion capture, not just drawing over top, not rotoscoping as it was. But what I think is so impressive about this particular title is that during its year, which was about 1993, it actually won an award, and for some weird reason, I actually got, for 1995, I got a copy of the actual certificate from the award, from the American Graphic Design Award for this game. Apparently, it was only for like 1 or 2 years that American Graphic Design actually awarded an award to, actually had a category for gaming. And so BioForge won for this particular year. And it's signed by all the appropriate people, none of whom we probably will ever hear of again. But I just thought it was really cool. This ended up in a pile of stuff that someone donated to me.
That's an awesome game. I've only ever played the demo. I played the demo when it came out. I never got the game because where I live, there's no game stores really. I had to go to Walmart. Walmart never got it, so I was never able to get it. That particular game is on my list, though. Like, I'm actively looking for that game.
It's still fun now. As a matter of fact, it was in the.
Could move the world.
Someone is playing a commercial right
But
now.
to get from the old way to the new, you'll need the right IT infrastructure.
It might be me. I don't think so. Thank
I'm
you.
just going to clear all my windows. That was you, wasn't it?
Wasn't me. For the first time. But one more thing, if I might. Another game right around that time that I think had an absolutely fantastic cover is a game called System Shock.
Mm-hmm.
This is a classic series that was actually brought back later on by who? By Warren Spector and the team. BioForge 2 came out, and it was a huge smash, and then everyone ran back to go find the original BioForge, which I thought was funny because this was not a very rare game by any stretch of the imagination. But people are looking for it now. They're still trying to grab it. But this was a phenomenal game, and I think the cover was just as phenomenal as everything else. This was done by... the cover was done by a funny... an unusual artist. This was done by a person by the name of Jennifer Davis, who is a woman in gaming, and she handled a lot of things in the background for manual design and things like that.
7 billion transactions flowing.
That is me, son of a gun. But I just thought that was incredibly cool. This is definitely one of my favorite box covers of all time.
That's a good segue into mine, Joe, because one of the 2 games I'm going to show for my free is the brand new System Shock that I received in the mail, which was one of my. I've got both of my white whales here, and anyone who follows the group is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But one of my favorite games in college, easily. I stole this from some guy on eBay. The poor guy, he had no idea what he had, but Joel got a good deal on this, and it's mostly complete, but definitely can't say enough good things about this game. I have System Shock 2. I just don't have the box anymore because, like an idiot, I threw it away when I moved, which was really stupid. System Shock 2, one of my favorite games ever. The only game that I've ever fallen out of my chair with because my wife I used to play with the lights out in college, and my wife walked in on me. I was playing that game. I was so into the freaking game, and she walked in the door. I like screamed and fell out of my chair. It's terrifying if you haven't played that game. play it. But anyway, System Shock. But then, definitely one of my favorite pickups of the week has got to be this one. Man, I won an auction. It was not a buy it now. I got it for $45. Was a great deal. The box is just immaculate. Like, you just don't see these in this good a shape. And it came from Canada, the magical land of big box PC games, where all PC games come from for some reason. Every auction I win comes from Canada. This one is complete. It's got everything. Played this when I was younger at a friend's house. I never owned it, but there's one more peg notched off of my Ultima list right there.
On the subject of awesome game boxes, I really do love the artwork on Martian Dreams as well. It was kind of steampunk before steampunk was cool. It was entirely steampunk before steampunk was cool. I mean, at that point, I think you had the Chaos Engine, but there was sort of in the early '90s this renaissance of fetishization for that sort of Victorian age of steam thing, which appeared in a couple of games. Rocket to the Moon as well, I think.
There was some conversation in the group about its rarity, and me and Joe were talking that this one does seem to be a bit more rare than its brother/sister game, Savage Empire, because then I don't have any way to confirm this, but I really don't believe
I had a really hard time getting Savage Empire, so I think the European distribution issue with that, because I actually had to, this was in the early 2000s, order a copy of Savage Empire from the US, and I was so pleased to get it, similarly in the box, but I'd never been able to get my hands on it at the actual time of release.
It seems to be more of them on the US eBay, and they seem to go for less for some reason. I don't know why, if it's just a stigma about that particular game, I don't know. But there's definitely more of them out there on the US side for some reason.
This is totally off topic, really, but it's about Martian Dreams, and I have to tell a story, like I always do. At the end of Martian Dreams, as everybody who's played it knows, one of the main characters in the game is a man by the name of Dr. Johann Spector, who is basically Warren Spector, the producer of the game. So he put his own image into the game, or the programmers did, and it's really nice. At the end of the game, when you win, they actually have a ticker tape parade down the streets of New York City, and it's the avatar waving with Johann Spector next to him and ticker tape all flickering down. I was so obsessed by this image that I actually remember taking a screenshot of it only about 8-9 years ago, and I wanted to take a screenshot of it and then get it printed out in a big poster size and ask for Warren Spector to autograph it. So I remember spending an entire evening coloring the hair of the avatar gray so it would look more like me, so that I could have a photograph of me and Warren Spector completing the game with his name on it. I know, it gets out of control, but these are the things that I think about all the time. I'm still going to do that someday.
This is why we love you, Joe. These are the reasons why we love you.
Guys, let me share something about some covers of games that I have here. This is the first I would like to share. Pretty common game, Man Enough. I like this one because the box is huge, so you can see it. It seems like a very well done, and it seems like the chick is going out of the pictures that you see, and it's not high stuff, so it look very nice. I usually collect my games. This one I cannot show inside because it's a seal. Usually I put this kind of stuff when I got my games seal. So that's the way how I identify the seals versus the regular games. It's nice, big, look very good. So it's something that I like. This one I like a lot too, probably because it's a big game. The box is nice and beautiful, and it's also my favorite game, Secret of Monkey Island. This is the English version for England, and it's good to have the three first versions of Monkey Island. It's very interesting, but probably this is one of the most. This is the Australian version, and this is the only box that has the 4 Monkey Islands in one box. Pretty interesting. Usually you only collect American versions of the games, but since this is the only the only version available that had 4 Monkey Island in one box, I thought it was pretty good to have it in my collection. So I'm enjoying
Four
this.
had a very different control system because I played 1 through 3, but I don't. 4 had a sort of almost Grim Fandango-ish control interface, didn't it? Or am I misremembering?
Mhm.
I think that's right. It was more like direct control as opposed to point and click.
Yeah, the Monkey Island 4 version. Yeah, it was the Scum technology, right? You need to click the object and read the bird stuff. And the new version, you can select the activity, make a right click, so you basically have the action combined with the object. Thank you.
So, can I go now? Are you
I
going?
will have something to show you if you'll be interested. It's a old DOS game called Pizza Tycoon. I probably think you never heard of it or never played it.
I've heard of it, but not
Actually,
played
I
it. I
tried this
remember reading
game.
reviews.
Say
Mike?
I tried this game about 3 weeks ago after like I don't know, like 10 years, and I basically absolutely forgot how to play it. But I'm really happy to have this box, especially because it's some kind of special box because it doesn't have this usual like cardboard which boxes were made of usually, but this at least seems to be the cardboard used on actual pizza boxes. So it it seems to be it's made of cardboard from pizza box or something, and it's sealed. And I was thinking about unsealing it. So I don't know if you'll be interested. I could do this right now on the cam to open the
Oh,
box.
unsealing.
So should I do it?
Do it. Yes.
Do it.
Rare, I
We've
mean,
watched someone to unseal something on here for ages.
no broken.
Before you open it, or while you're opening it, what makes you think it looks like a pizza box material? I didn't catch that. It looks
It
like
does
one of
look like a pizza box.
no, I mean, not the design. He said the material looks like pizza box cardboard, if I understood correctly.
That's a Microprose game, right?
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
a standard Microprose box type thing.
So probably part of the same series of the Transport Tycoon. It looks
Yeah.
good in the box, right?
This is where it pinches my soul when you rip the plastic off.
Oh my
I
god,
love
that's expensive,
seeing
huh?
plastic being ripped off.
Ow.
This is why sealed games don't last long around me.
Oh. Melting. I'm melting.
60% of the value gone now.
Okay, it's a little bit beat up on this side, but doesn't
Can
matter.
could you show a close up of the corner, Paul, so we can see like pizza box type? Does it feel different?
Numbers here, so it has some kind of texture on it.
Look at the separation up in the corner.
Yeah, it is textured.
It does look like a pizza box.
Yep.
That's cool.
Thank you for unshrink wrapping it for us.
Okay, so it has
There's pizza in the box because I'm really hungry, except for it's probably ancient, moldy pizza.
I hope that's not the feeling.
oh,
Free with your game. This slice of pizza.
You guys need to watch Lazy Game,
on the
the
side.
Red Baron Pizza episode, by the way.
So let's see what is here. Some kind of card thingy. The actual CD, of course, sealed. There is extremely urgent notice. Menu looks pretty nice. Menu. Then we have a cookbook. Yay!
Hey, does it tell you how to make pizza?
Yep.
That's
That is genuinely useful feeling.
And then we have,
I like how it looks like a menu.
yeah. Then we have this and technical support. It seems to be everything. Nope. It's not.
It's pink.
Okay.
Do you think they're still running the hint line?
From the box.
That version is supposed to come with a pizza slicer. I think you're missing that piece. It's supposed to come with one of those circular things that you cut the pizza with.
Is that true?
No.
I knew it.
I would be remiss.
You're a bad person.
It's not working for me anymore.
Hey, Tomas, you said you had a microphone somewhat similar.
Oh, me? Oh, I have something else to show if I can go ahead. Maybe if it was done last week, you guys can maybe stop me because I haven't been here since the first hangout. This is the Pillars of Eternity Collector's Edition. This is, it's pretty good size. I wish maybe there was some more eye-catching artwork in the front, but I don't mind. It's kind of classy. This will be actually my second time opening the box. It's not sealed. I take it off as soon as I get it. It's let's see. So it kind of opens a little different way. It opens out.
Oh, it's another book style box.
Another book style. So we have a. I'll just start taking things out. So thank you for buying this game. And as far as the goodies inside, it's still pretty cool. We have a postcard, a little manual, some sort of, I don't know what that is. This is my second time doing this. Okay, that's a notepad. Get a patch. I don't know what you guys do.
Look great on my battle vest.
Yeah, do you guys really use those patches? I'm curious. I just have a bunch of them from other games, and they kind of just, I want to put them maybe on something.
I always thought about
it's obviously for heavy metal fans who have those denim patch vests and are also into gaming.
Okay, so you have like Metallica and then Pillars of Eternity.
Exactly. There's a huge crossover, really.
It's a bit. Mouse pad, which is kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, I'm not going to use that mouse pad anytime soon. And there was a T-shirt, which is hard for me to take out, but I kind of squeezed it inside the box. So still sealed wrap. So that's my find for I sort of like newer games. I don't really have a lot of older games. You guys are really kind of putting me to shame with some of the stuff you have, but I like some of the newer stuff, and that's sort of, that's what I got.
Very fine box.
I'd say a solid 50% of my collection is modern collector's editions, actually. So.
Yeah.
Probably ought to do a special on modern collector's editions.
I think that's a great idea because the new stuff of today is going to be the big collectors things of tomorrow.
What size is that T-shirt?
You planning on wearing it?
Well, I would wear it, yeah. If it was
Not you.
Large. Although you don't get to pick the size.
Well, in fact, I think you'll find that 90% of all gamers wear large. Has anyone here not worn a large T-shirt? Given me, yeah.
Slim fit, usually extra small. What's a wish?
I don't know. Not like in the last 10 years.
No. So that's the only one I got for today. That was my latest find. That's about it.
I'm jealous of that. That
Very
piece of
cool.
the game completely flew under my radar. Like, I'm usually like on top of these collector's editions, but I didn't even know that game came out until after it was already. Till people were posting pictures of it on Facebook. I knew nothing about that game, so I'm very jealous of that particular piece.
You mind
I was
me asking,
aware of it, but I was on hiatus from box collecting because I was trying to move.
do you mind me asking where you got it and how much you paid?
I was the one of the backers from the Kickstarter initially, so yeah, I was sort of on it from day one. I'm for those of you, if you guys are fans of Infinity Engine games, the old Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, this is like the true successor, I think. So I'm still about halfway through the game and has not been a disappointment at all. It's actually if you guys know Obsidian and some of the other guys that were at former Interplay, but actually Interplay is still alive, but they're kind of a zombie now, I guess. But yeah, it's a really good game.
That's one that I wish I had backed on Kickstarter, and I think the best investment you probably made, because like some of the Kickstarter box editions are going for 100 to.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone again, hasn't he?
$400, so yeah.
You're having some lag issues or something, man. It's like sometimes you come in good and sometimes you just clip out.
Can you guys hear me, or am I lagging?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. You see me too?
No.
Really?
No, we can't see you, but that might not be a bad thing.
I can't tell if I know you're joking. You're not joking about the last part, but can you really see me or not?
No.
No, I've got a black screen.
All right, I'm gonna restart it again. God damn it.
Well, this is probably a good segue into our final discussion topic, since Stuart's not here. How to look after maps and posters, which is a curious topic because I'll be honest with you, I just stick the stuff in the box and let it ride pretty much. I don't. None of mine have anything special going on, so I'm really curious to hear what folks have to say about this, because if you can point out anything that I'm doing incorrectly, it would be very useful to me. So, old Joe is pointing at himself, so what you got there, Joe?
No, I was saying me too. I don't have any experience on this, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what KG has to say.
Okay, there are a couple of things on this. Posters, and we've seen this a couple of times in the group, both promotional posters and that came with magazines and in-box posters. When a poster is left in its folded state, if you leave it there long enough, basically it's never ever going to uncrease. So you have the immediate question of whether you mount it in a frame and risk the kind of fading that's visible on Joe's bad blood print, or whether you leave it in the box, knowing that it's, as time goes on, it's going to become more fixed in its creased state. Because posters and boxes are never ever ship rolled. And the other thing is, of course, these. This is it's actually in fairly good condition. I couldn't find my Stray Mystery Ultima 3 one. This gets to come out of its box quite often because, being one of my official favourite video games of all time, Ultima 6's feelies come out quite a bit. But you can see where in my younger days I was a bit more careless and didn't fold it back to its original lines, but I'm sure it's nothing an iron wouldn't fix. However, I've not ironed this, I have not cleaned it. I'm lucky enough the cat hasn't shredded it or done anything atrocious to it, so it's never really needed cleaning. Smells slightly dusty actually, which is weird because it was in a box. But there is this whole question with cloth maps and so on. How do you keep them clean? How do you keep them folded optimally? Do you want to mount them? I mean, I suppose that applies to cloth maps and posters, but mounting cloth has different potentially damaging consequences. I, until recently, haven't had much wall space, and so now I'm at the point of teaching myself to make frames because stock frames are a bit rubbish. And Joe and I have an Ultima Dragon friend who is actually a framer. But yeah, so looking after these things. Does anyone have any insights? Hey, John.
Hey, John. Welcome.
We're currently on poster, map, and other cloth feely preservation. Oh, which ties into something Joe had pre-prepared. It's not quite a poster, but this came with Bad Blood. I would love to mount this somewhere, but this fan folds because it's printed on A6. But a lot of posters aren't so conveniently designed. Of course, Joe here has the originals. If you wouldn't mind showing us those.
Of course, this is one of the few original artworks I actually have left over, and this is the original artwork that poster actually came from, which I think.
It's done by Larry Elmore as well.
No, I don't think it is. This is done by Glenn Johnson and Keith Burdack. And Glenn Johnson is one of the unsung heroes of artwork for gaming. I don't know where he went, but he disappeared somewhere. I haven't seen him. I've tried contacting him a number of times, but I can never get a hold of him. I think he got out of the gaming industry, but with the exception of Dennis.
I love the Kajak.
Yeah.
Did you say is that original or is that a print or what is that?
This is actually the original artwork used from it, and I can show you very carefully that it looks to me as though some of these are actually physically mounted to this board. So, but I just think it's incredibly cool. Again, Glenn Johnson, one of the greatest artists of the Origin age, very unsung.
Fascinating. Huh. I mean, it's very intricately presented there. It's never seen anything quite like it.
When Joe and I were talking about this and did a bit of research on this, essentially what Origin did for most of their print works and most of their boxes was they took photographs, as in the old days of printing, the dark ages, the 80s and 90s. They took photos of them, generally in tricolor or four color CMYK printing, and then these were acid etch. You had acid etched plates for each section, and then they were printed through and sent through a press. And Origin seemed to have kept with that style of box and manual printing for far longer than most other houses did.
Well, I mean, I've been doing graphic design professionally now for 15 years, and we didn't. I worked for a newspaper for 10 years. Me and Joe talked about this a lot because he was quizzing me down about some of his pieces that he had. But we didn't switch to all digital print style until like a good 10 years ago. I mean, it has not been that long at all. Print technology hasn't moved on in a very long time.
I think UK periodicals moved a bit earlier, although not based. 10 years ago, we were definitely on them. Probably 15, about 17. I think was when you had the big switch over for a lot of UK magazines. But we're digressing.
This begs the question, though. Like, I've got several games back here that have posters, and of course, all the Ultimates have maps and everything. But I mean, is it too late? Because most of this stuff's been sitting in the box now for literally 20 years. And if you mentioned about the posters being permanently creased, I'd say it's probably too late on these unless there's a way to reverse that aging process.
I was sincerely hoping someone would know.
I don't think it's too late yet. I mean, KG's foresight is just fantastic. She's talking long-term, 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now, being able to keep this stuff. But right now, I think if somebody wanted to do a proper restoration and covering and making sure that all of the edges,
if you use mounting board, then
there's still time to do it. But we've all seen comic book covers and things like that have gone through entire restoration processes because of 60, 70 years of degradation, and plus their print, the medium itself was never meant to be long term.
There's stuff that in most of the inserts in these boxes that is irreversible, like these Ultima games. A lot of the the random stuff like the urgent read me now sheets and all the stuff that looks like they just printed out on an 8.5 sheet of paper and cut in half. this stuff's all turned yellow, and there's really nothing we can do about that because the paper's acid paper. They just use copy paper out of their printers, you know. And
Ooh, I've not had that happen to many titles.
my Ultima 5 has got some pretty yellowed up paper, and I don't know that there's anything we can really do about that.
Sounds like a new research project.
More things for the toolkit. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be as simple as putting hair bleach on your Super Nintendo shell to re-whiten it. Incidentally, that's how you re-whiten a Super Nintendo shell.
Well, I'd say stay tuned to the channel. We'll do some research and see if we can come up with some stuff. But this may be a good spot to move on to maybe a third show and tell. That I think we've got some time. It's 3:22
Yep.
at the moment. So if anyone's got more goodies to show.
Hey,
We got
I got skipped on the last show and tell. I got gypped. It's my turn.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah. All right. First,
Something anyway. I need to prepare 3, so I'll be right back.
this is not one of my items, but since Joe, you only had the other edition before. This is the original Bioforge, and what interesting thing about this cover is it has the sticker, the SRB rating as a sticker. So it must have been one of the earliest games to get the rating.
I'm so glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, that's Joe. This is for your show and tell, Joe. All right, there's 2 things I wanted to show here. This one is a story about why it's good to open up sealed games. So I bought this game on eBay a long time ago. It's Journeyman Project 2 Buried in Time. I played the first one and wanted to play the second one. I got it sealed, basically new in the package on eBay years ago. And of course I opened it to play it. And when I opened it, I found inside this card that said, "Congratulations, you are the owner of one of the first pressed copies of Buried in Time. Send in this postcard for a free limited edition signature disc." And I was like, okay. But I'm not sending this postcard in because I'm not sure if this company, Sanctuary Woods Multimedia, is even around anymore. And it wasn't, like, even 20 years ago, whenever I got this. But Presto Studios is still around, so I found some number for somebody, and I called them up, and I said, hey, I got this postcard thing, and I'm not sending it in to those guys, but, is there any way I can get my limited signature disc? And they're like, huh? Like, let me see what you're talking about. We did some digging, and then they actually sent me a package with, like, tons of stuff in it, including limited signature discs of Journeyman Project Buried in Time, numbered out of 100. Interestingly, this one says 51 out of 100, and this one is 52 out of 100. And there's also the first one, which is also 52 out of 100. I don't know if you can see it. But they sent me these signed discs by the development team, and then they also sent me tons of other stuff, like all these bumper stickers. I don't even know what they all are, like tons of different bumper stickers for their games, and there's a whole pile of them here. And they sent me a bunch of patches, and they sent me like tons of these stickers, and these are magnets actually, a bunch of magnets.
You need to make a PC collector patch
stickers. So I was pretty happy actually when that happened. So that's the cautionary tale of why you should always open up your big box games and find out what you're doing. So that's my first item.
So, Stuart, how many years after the release did they send you this stuff? If you can calculate this whole thing.
So this game came out in, let's see, it doesn't. I'm trying to see on the box. 1995. I'm guessing this was like 1997 or 98 when I got it. It wasn't that long after. They made like a couple of games and they closed up shop pretty quickly. It couldn't have been too long after because Presto Studios is also long gone, but at the time they were still up and running, so it wasn't that long after. But you never know. It can never hurt to try. So
incredibly honorable of them to still honor that whole thing. I think that's cool as heck. Now I have to go open my Ultima 6 Special Edition to find out if I actually got a rune in it or not.
Yeah,
well, the global supply is still missing some runes, so.
The nice thing is they didn't even make me send them the postcard. I still have the postcard. They didn't make me send it to them, so that was also nice. The other thing I want to show is just more of a classic game. So this is the original Zork.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous of you right now. I'm so gonna rob your house.
Yeah.
You don't draw my...
Where do you live again?
Sorry? Oh.
Where do you live again?
I live in New Jersey. There were a couple of versions of this. This is for the TRS-80 Model 1. I also have the Model 3 somewhere. John's digging for something he's trying to dig up right now. There's also one for the Apple, which is slightly different. It's actually in a box. But this was one of the original releases of Zork, and it's pretty cool, and it's called the Barbarian cover. You can't completely see it here, but basically the adventurer looks like a barbarian about to go like beat up some troll, and that's totally different.
Does he have a mustache?
Sorry?
Does he have a mustache?
Mustache.
Looks like a porn mustache, actually, but
It's a big 70s mustache.
Well, it was the 80s, Pride Man.
That's right.
that's my stuff for today.
Okay.
Back in that time, there is no boxes. Actually, they selling all these games in these plastic containers, right? So that makes it even more difficult to collect them because, you know, even when somebody have for all in the garage a box and they want to sell it in eBay, so then we can purchase it, we can get it, right? But probably somebody find like a little diskette inside a plastic bag. They say, probably don't want to work at all, so they throw out. So, and I'm really interested in those games for 83, 84, 82, right? And there's no box in there. It's just a plastic stuff, so it makes it extremely weird. Very good collection.
Yeah, the thing about those stuff getting thrown away is horror stories for game collectors. That is. Does anyone else have cool boxes to show?
Well, mine is actually the runner-up, and John's T-shirt reminded me of these for the coolest. We did earlier the most awesome boxes ever released, and I have 3 to show. One being this just kick-ass metal Return to Castle Wolfenstein box, which these 3 are some of my favorite boxes. They just
great too.
Yeah, just barely didn't make the cut. Then I've got the Linux distro of the Quake 3, which was really cool because it came with a copy of Linux, but in college I could never get that copy of Linux to work because my nerd powers weren't great enough at the time. And then of course I've got the original Quake 3 metal box, and these are just I mean, what can you say about these boxes? They're just amazing. Just feeling of them, and the texture on the front of it is just amazing. So if you ever get a chance to pick these up, man, you definitely should grab them. And the game is kick-ass too, but I believe it's moved on to Quake Live. I've never played it, but played the hell out of this in college, man. Me and my wife were like professional Quake 3 arena players. I mean, we played Instajib. We could blast pretty much anybody, but yeah, these are just amazing. But this one is my favorite for sure. It was a great.
Joel, are you trying to tell us that you fell in love with the person you fragged the most?
I would say the truth would be she fragged me the most, so I would not assume that I was the winner in all those situations. Yeah, she was like the railgun queen. Like, our favorite thing about Quake 3 was these idiots would hit the jump pads thinking that was like going to save them or something, but all that did was make it to where they were on a predictable arc, so you could just blast them right out of the sky, anyway. That's my college story.
I don't know if anybody's mentioned it before, but John Romero's here.
Yeah, we're trying to be cool.
I know you're trying, but I'm failing miserably. I'm like squealing like a little girl with my mute button on.
Yeah, I think you better sort of anecdote something here, John, before Joe explodes.
I sold a lot of shirts last night, if anyone was paying attention on Facebook.
Yeah, you sold them real quick, too. I couldn't believe it. I saw them like an hour after they all closed. I'm sorry.
I sold a 1992 Wolfenstein 3D shirt, and it was not even, it was seconds. Like, I put it up, and it was seconds later it was gone. And it was a brand new shirt that had never been worn. But it had, Wolfenstein 3D on the front with BJ Blazkowicz blasting through a wall with a chain gun, and then you know, it's basically on my Facebook page. You can see all of the stuff that I put up. There's probably, I haven't even checked eBay, but there might be 1 or 2 shirts from my MMO or whatever that are left. But I have a whole bunch of really old stuff too. Like, let me see, what is this? This one here? Has anyone ever seen this?
No, but I know what.
Product catalog for Serious Software 1983.
Oh.
So it's all paper, you know, it's just a paper catalog. This is all those cartoons that they used to draw at some point. They thought that was cool. For, you know, Mark Turmell's games and Dan Thompson and all these guys. And I know Jerry Jewell, who was the guy who started Sirius, and also Nasser Jabeli is a friend of mine who wrote most of the stuff that they did the first couple of years. And I'm trying to do an interview with Nasser before long. Here's a small box game, if anyone's seen it.
Very cool. Greg Malone, son of a gun.
Greg Malone.
Yeah, Minuteman by Penguin. This is like, I think it's 1982. 1983.
I have never seen that title before, son of a gun.
No way, really?
Did Mobius also, right?
Yeah, he did Mobius and then Wind Waker, or Wind Walker. It's hard to say that right now after Nintendo. Here's a. If you guys have seen Crisis Mountain.
Nice.
Is that a disaster game?
This is a game where you're inside of a volcano, and you're basically trying to detonate. You're trying to defuse all the bombs, and because if the bombs go off, the whole thing blows and you're dead because you're inside the volcano, and all kinds of boulders and stuff are all over the place. It's a pretty cool game. I have shrink wrap copies of this stuff too. Has anyone heard of Soft Tape, the company?
I've heard of them, but I don't have anything from them.
So they're the very first computer game company in existence. They sold the very first computer games in 1978, and so Gary Koffler is the guy who started that company, and he's a friend of mine. And I don't know if you guys know who Bob Bishop was, but he wrote the first 4 high-resolution graphics games for personal computers in 1978 on the Apple II. And anyway, the company Soft Tape. This is like a brochure for it, Soft Tape, and it folds out and everything into a big old bunch of ads, kind of. And so the first 4 games were made by Bob Bishop, and they were published through Soft Tape. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Soft Talk, but Soft Talk was probably the best computer magazine I've ever read, and it came from Soft Tape. Soft Tape had a newsletter called Soft Talk, and then Margot Comstock saw the name of the newsletter and wanted it, so she bought the newsletter, the name of the newsletter, and started Soft Talk magazine. And then Soft Disk was the company that I went to work for later, and Soft Disk came from Soft Talk. So Soft Tape, Soft Talk, Soft Disk, which lived until like 1995. But Bob Bishop was one of the pioneers in the industry, and at this year's GDC, he was, you know, they had a really cool memorial for him on screen, and luckily Gary Koffler called me basically the day that he found out that Bob's family was going to go and take all of his stuff and throw it in the dumpster because they didn't know what to do with it. So, so I went with my wife. We drove 4.5 hours to his house and took everything that we could, including a black Apple II Plus, which was a prototype for the Hewlett-Packard Pluses.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so we got all of Bob's stuff, including the Apple glasses, you know, with the sunglasses that are all tinted to different colors. the different Apple II colors, like that. And those glasses were made by Woz and only given out to friends of his. So anyway, I have a ton of these kinds of games, like really old Ziploc bag games. So this is
that I'm familiar with.
1982 Cannonball Blitz by Olaf Lubeck.
Yeah, but man, in 1982, I was only 4 years old, so.
Oh yeah, there's so much. This is one of the coolest things they used to do all the time. It says machine language or written in assembly. All of the boxes. I know it's not a big box, so it doesn't count. Except it's the industry that created boxes.
It counts.
This totally counts.
Trust me, it counts.
This is a Cyber Strike signed by Nasser Jabeli. This is from 1981, and it's another Ziploc bag game.
Nice.
Made by Sirius.
Were you friends with Nasser back in the day, or did you become friends with him
I
later?
became friends with him back in the 90s, not back in the day. Star Cruiser. Ziploc bag.
I played that one.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it says Synergistic Software, and Star Cruiser is made by Sirius Software because that's the company that Nasser and Jerry Jewell started. But before they built up their distribution network, they went through Synergistic Software, and then Synergistic put it out with their name on it until Sirius could get all the distribution, and then they could put stuff out under their own name.
Nice of them to leave Nasser's name on it.
Yeah, I have several Nasser signed things. You know Dr. Cat, right?
Yeah.
You have to know Dr. Cat. So here's the Caverns of Freitag. Let me see if I can-
So cool. Love that artwork.
Very cool.
Signed by Dr. Cat.
John, do you just have piles and piles of stuff lying around, or do you have?
I have a box full of Ziploc bag games from the first few years of the 80s and the late 70s.
Wow.
And anyway, yeah. So I have a guy. Basically, I have this guy who an assessor come over who knows the entire history of everything in the computer and game industry, and he saw the box and he was just flipping out because he has not seen most of these games.
This is like an appraisal
it's
of old
Odyssey.
computer games. I didn't know that there was people that did that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, they work for the computer.
We should probably send him around to Joe's place.
There's the Strong Museum of Play in New York, in Rochester, New York, and the Computer History Museum here in Mountain View. So this is.
We definitely need the name of that assessor. I've been looking for a guy.
Oh, cool! Yeah, this guy is such a massive collector. You would not believe his
At
story.
least get him in a group so he can come
Probably
and
fake when he sees Joe's Kilrathi heads.
There's a game called Borg from Sirius. It was Dan Thompson who made it. So cool! It's assembly language 48K on the back. Do you guys know that?
So do the discs still work if you've been able to image them?
I have not tried the discs, but I don't need to because they're all on Asimov anyway. So that character, that was Sirius's mascot. You guys know what the name of it?
Grud.
No.
Yep, that's a Grud. You guys ever heard of Snakebite?
Yep. You know, there's a guy recently who listed on eBay tons of Sirius games, like in the last 2 weeks, and they were selling for like I want to say $200 to $250 a pop, like easily.
Yeah.
Buy it now. So
I was looking at those. I don't know who that was. I don't think it was Chuck Somerville, because Chuck is the guy who wrote Snakebite. He's a friend of mine too. But somebody who's a serious collector, I saw that. I was like, yep, that's a good price for that stuff.
Yeah.
This is another friend of mine, Eric Knopper, at this Orbitron, and it was Eric Knopp. His dad, Paul, was the general manager at Sirius. And when Nasser Jabeli left Sirius to form Jabeli Software, Phil and Eric both left with him. That was in 1982, I believe. Oh, another copy.
Cool.
For Apple, right?
Do you have a full collection of Sirius software, John?
No. They made a lot of games. Like I don't have Wavy Navy and and Blade of Blackpool and stuff. But
So you'd be up for trades, right?
I'm probably not trading these games.
No, but I have Wavy Navy.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I'll trade that. Yeah, I'll trade it for like an Orbitron or something.
I
They're all
already have Orbitron. I was planning on giving these all to you, so I'll trade them for an autograph.
Blade of Blackpool is on eBay right now, but it's a box version, so it might be a later release. So my watch.
big boxes. Have you ever heard of this game?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah?
I don't know it.
Never played it, but I've heard of it.
Escape from Arcturus, yeah. This is real early from Synergistic.
And I love how copyrights weren't really all that enforced. There's an X-Wing right on the front of the package.
Hey, computer gaming, it's a niche hobby. Who cares, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Eric wrote this one. It's called Cops and Robbers.
That is the
I
best
remember-
one.
I remember 1981 going into a computer store and seeing this hanging on the wall and was like, wow, that looks really interesting.
Those are Apple games or PC games?
These are all Apple II.
Oh, Apple II. Okay.
Before the PC existed, the Apple II made an industry for it. The PC design was copied from the Apple. So this is Easy Draw, which is the basis for most of Sirius Software's games. It was written by Nasser Jabeli and is a set of routines to draw fonts on the screen and do various bitmap graphics and stuff. So this was the foundation of Sirius. This was the first. Huh?
I love the days when they sold their applications that they used to make the games as well.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, this was Jerry Jules. Nasser Jabeli walked into a computer land where Jerry Jewell was working and showed him what he was writing, which was Easy Draw, and he got super excited about it and was like, "Oh my God, we got to go into business." So they started the company immediately, and he took whatever Nasser wrote, which was the tools to make games, and sold that first while Nasser started making the games. And the first games that Nasser did, let me see if I have them here. I have the master discs for Exit from Jabeli Software.
Cool.
Yeah, Neptune from Jabeli.
John makes me feel bad.
Zenith is another one here.
Why does
I have
you feel bad?
Huh?
He's got cooler stuff than I do.
Wouldn't you expect it? He's a little closer to these people than we are.
Yeah, I guess I should have expected it.
Joe, I don't think you're really in a position to sort of go commenting about how, your cool stuff is relatively not cool. Mr. I have EA's back catalogue.
This is the 3 Mile Island by Muse Software.
Can you blow it up?
Dyson disc on the back.
Huh.
You can read it.
Yeah.
1980.
So I assume that was very timely because that was probably right after the meltdown.
Yeah, they did that back then. It's like, oh, something happened. Let's make a game about it. Like Cable's.
Imagine if we started making games about current disasters.
Well, like Choplifter was a Iranian hostage rescue. Cabal Spy. All these Cold War games.
No one gave a shit back then.
Let me see. A lot of stuff here. Anyone remember Cyborg from Sentient?
Yes. I have a copy of that for the IBM, which I didn't think existed. That's an Apple, right?
1981. It was made on the Apple.
Yeah.
It was made. Michael Berlin did it on the Apple II before anything got ported to the PC.
Suppose the PC version doesn't even work. It has like a bug that causes it to not even start up.
Wow. This is like Zenith's interesting. This is an Nasser Jabeli 3D game that he made. This one actually folds open to a big picture, and then has like the instructions on the back, which is exactly what I did when I made Heretic. Instead of making a manual that nobody's going to read or look at for a few seconds and throw it in the box, I turned the manual into a big poster. So the back of the manual is a giant fold-out poster that you want to put on your wall because it's Brahms artwork on the cover of the thing, and then all the other stuff is on the inside. Does anyone remember Bolo?
No.
Not at all.
Bolo was the first game to use the A-star algorithm. It was based on a set of books called the Dynachrome Brigade, and it was a giant space, big scrolling area that you were flying around in, and you're trying to destroy these bases that were out in space, but all these bad dudes are going through space, and there's mazes everywhere kind of in space. It's kind of weird. And so you're going around, through these mazes and walls and stuff, and these things are A-starring ahead of you and behind you and everything. It's like, and it's crazy to see it on a 8-bit microcomputer kind of game versus a big PC game. Because it's doing the kind of pathfinding that you expect of big games, but it did it first in 1982, I believe. This came out, and the guy who wrote it, it just says by Elven Software. It doesn't say the name of the person. It doesn't say the name of the person because the guy worked at Microsoft, and he wrote an Apple II game. His name is Jim Lane.
Now, John, do you have all this stuff documented?
No, not yet.
Somebody's got to interview you. Somebody's got to write all this stuff down. Somebody's got to make the time to go do this because, no disrespect, but you get hit by a truck and it's all gone.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's not history, man.
It's like all this stuff is out there, but I don't know. Apple II history stuff hasn't been in one place. I don't know if you guys have seen Russell D. Maria's book High Score.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's putting out a new edition. I'm doing the proofing on it, and this is like the 3rd edition, and it actually has it's mostly Apple II stuff, and it's the beginning of the industry, and so EA and automated simulations and all that stuff is in there, but not all the stories, I guess, that I've found out. This is for Horizon 5, and this is just one of the cardboard things, and you kind of fold it out into the instructions. But I actually have the original artwork that you see here on the cover. I have the actual painting that I got from Nasser.
So, John, can I ask a question? You're friends with Nasser. Why is he not active anymore? He was so prolific. He produced so many games for Sirius and then in his own company, and then sort of that's it. You don't hear from him anymore.
So this is hilarious. None of you came to the 1998 Apple II reunion, right? So.
Was that the one that I went to?
Huh?
Was that the one that I went to at the
Malibu? You went to Malibu.
Right.
That was John Garcia, the guy who founded NovaLogic, but had made the Zaxxon on the Apple II for Datasoft. The funny thing is he actually didn't make a Zaxxon. His name is on it, but he was just the manager, and he took the programmer's name off and put his own name on it.
God.
I can't even believe it. But we were at John Garcia's house, and that was 6 years after the first Apple II reunion. But Nasser came to the first Apple II reunion. So Woz came the first time as well. Bob Bishop was there. Dan Gorlin, who wrote Choplifter, Doug Smith, who wrote Lode Runner, Alan Margot, who created Soft Talk, Doug Carlston, who created Broderbund. Everybody was there. Chuck Somerville, Mark Trammell, Eric Knopp, Eric Hammond, who wrote One-on-One. I mean, everybody that had made the Apple II industry was there, and but everybody only cared if Nasser was there. They didn't actually even care that Woz was there. They cared that Nasser was there because he was more mysterious. And so what happened was everybody came and everybody got to see Nasser and talk to him, but nobody, they're just like, what have you been doing? You left Sirius in 1982, you did your Trebelli software, and then the whole crash happened, and then he disappeared. And so what happened is Nasser actually made more money in his company than he did at Sirius. And when the crash happened, he just got out of it for a while. It took him. He closed. I think he closed Jabelli Software in '83 or '84. I think it was '83. It was real short. And he basically went on a trip around the world. He just went all over the place. He's an Iranian programmer, but he grew up in Sacramento. And so he went all over the world, and he came back in '86. So he was gone for about 2.5 years, probably 3 years. When he came back, he went to his friend Doug Carlson, who owned Broderbund, which is kind of funny. He didn't go to Sirius. He didn't go to Jerry Jewell. He went to Doug. And he had never published anything through Broderbund, but he was friends with Doug Carlson, and he asked Doug, so what's going on? Like, I want to get back into the game biz. What should I do? Because I know how things change. It's pretty quick. And Doug said, well, there's this thing, there was a big crash, killed everything, consoles were dead, but this company called Nintendo came and they rescued it. And so he's like, okay, so I need to program this Nintendo thing. And Doug said, yeah, so let me introduce you to some companies that are doing this now, like pretty early. And so he flew with Nasser to Japan, and he went to, I believe he went to Nintendo, but then he went to Square. And at Square, the people there were like, they were asking him if he knew who NASA was. and he's like, what do you mean, Nasser? Nasser? He's like, Nasser Debelli, you know, the way that they say it. And he's like, that's me. And they're like, oh my God, because the person who was there said that he was an Apple II programmer, and they're asking him if he knew who Nasser was, because he's the most famous Apple II programmer. And so he said, no, that's me. And one thing leads to another, and Nasser moves to Japan and starts working at Square. And he writes 3D World Runner, Rad Racer, and then he makes Final Fantasy.
Whoa!
And then he makes Final Fantasy 2, and then he makes Final Fantasy 3, and then he takes a break for a little bit, and then he makes Secret of Mana.
Wow. I had no idea.
So Squaresoft owes him everything, basically, because they were about to shut. Squaresoft was about to shut down before Final Fantasy 1 came out. Final Fantasy 1 was like their final hurrah. Like, they were just, well, you know, in a big fashion. They owe him everything. If he made Final Fantasy 1, there would not be a Squaresoft right now.
Yeah, exactly. So if it wasn't for Nasser, Square would be gone. He was the sole coder. They had 2 programmers, and they left because they knew the place was going down, so they took off as he came in.
Well, what's interesting, though, is I've seen several making of videos in the Icons show that used to be on the G4 or whatever it was called back then. They never mentioned him. I don't know that they ever mentioned him by name ever in any of that stuff.
So Nasser is like the prototypical, you know, shadowy figure. He's very humble, and he doesn't really like to. He's not into computers at all. So after 1993, he's finished with using a computer to make anything. Like, he's done. And he's been done since then. So it's been 22 years he's not done anything on a computer. He was more interested in TV, doing some other stuff.
So where's he now?
So he's living in Rancho Cordova / Gold River, Sacramento. I have his phone number, I know his address and everything. And he's just kind of retired because he made $10 million from Final Fantasy and retired. So he had a great deal because they basically gave him an outrageous royalty because they were done anyway.
Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't even think they were going to be in business anymore.
Yeah, so they're like, yeah, you can have X% of all the money because we're done. So he did it. He pulled it out and he won. And so with Secret of Mana, you know, him and Hironobu Sakaguchi are really good friends, or they were really good friends. And Hironobu Sakaguchi was like the executive producer over all of the games at Square. So the whole Final Fantasy series, he designed it. You know, he designed all the Final Fantasies, and he worked closely with Nasser to make those first 3 and Secret of Mana. And Hironobu, they were having a party probably about 3 years ago. They were having a Square anniversary, and Hironobu asked me if I knew where Nasser was so he could invite him to the party that's in Hawaii. So I got in touch with Nasser. I called him up, and and told him the party was happening, and he couldn't make it because it's like this big long flight to Hawaii, and I guess he was too busy. But we just went to GDC in March, the Game Developers Conference, and this year Hironobu Sakaguchi got a Lifetime Achievement Award, and so they made a really hilarious video about like how he came up, how he saved Square. It's this awesome video. Of course, they don't mention Nasser because like he's the guy who was the head of all the game making at Square, and Nasser was a guy who coded this stuff for him. And Nasser just can't be contacted for any video stuff anyway, so it's really tough to get him on video. But I actually have probably about an hour-long interview that I did with him back in 1998 on video. Haven't put it out yet, but it'll be up at some point. I'm getting better at Final Cut Pro. But anyway, yeah. So he basically got this award, and then we got to take some pictures with him and say hi. And I basically told him that I tried to contact Nasser to come and surprise him at the award thing, but Nasser was not going to be able to make it because he just had surgery on his knee.
It's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. I still I'm surprised though, somebody who did so much, like he just like walks away and is like, I'm done with computers.
That's amazing. I'm like doubly glad you told that story because I'm a follower of all Final Fantasy series. I've got an entire collection of those games, and I had no idea that he was even involved in them because any literature, any videos you see, any history that you see about those games, I don't think I've ever seen one that they even mentioned him ever.
Yeah. Have you done some Googling?
That's Nasser is the game.
Yeah. If you guys say it again.
It creates a direct link between sort of the wave of American game development and the development of the JRPG, which is quite have that sort of bridge in historical terms, I think.
Yeah. So JRPGs started because of Wizardry, and they went to Japan, and then they were influenced in Japan by Wizardry, and then they made Japanese versions of the RPG, the JRPG. So, because there were no RPGs that early when Wizardry came out in 1981.
Well, computer.
Yeah, break back, guys. It's almost 4 o'clock. It's like we got one more minute. I'm gonna stop the broadcast right here. Thanks everyone for showing, and stick around for the after party, as we call it, and we'll continue the conversation. But goodbye, YouTube audience, and thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye, and good luck.